Welcome back to the Ruched YouTube channel. In today's class, we are going to learn how to make this beautiful cowl dress with basque effect. So it has a collar on the neckline and then it has a ruched effect on the sleeve area as well. It's a very simple dress and it's beautiful as you can see. If this is something you would like to learn, kindly stay tuned to the end of this tutorial. Thank you. Okay, so for this tutorial I'm using a total of 2.5 yards of fabric, and this is a chiffon fabric, so it's a bit shaky. So I'm just going to take my time to explain with this small paper because it's quite big so that we can understand it. So like I said, this fabric is 2.5 yards, so I'm going to assume this part to be the 2.5. okay, so this is the 2.5 yards, and like I said, it's a chiffon fabric, so the length of the fabric is by 60 inches. That's the total length of the fabric, and then this side, the yard side, is 2.5 yards. Okay, so this 60 inches now is going to be the width of my fabric. That's what I'm going to be using as the width. That's the back measurement plus the sleeve length. I hope you understand that. Why this 2.5 yards here is going to be the length area. That's where I'm going to be using as my full length. Okay, so I'm going to be folding it in form of an high-low dress. Okay, but it's not high-low. It's going to make sense as we move ahead. So now the front is going to stop at the half length of the front. So for this particular tutorial, the half length I'm working with is around 16 to 17 inches, but it has a basque effect in front. So for me to create the basque effect, I'm going to add like 3 to 4 inches to my actual half length. So I'm going to make the half length a total of around 20 inches. So what I'm going to do now is, from this 2.5 yards, I'll go ahead and mark out 20 inches. So I'll just stop the 20 inches here because of course this is a smaller paper. So here you're going to fold like this. So what you have here now is your half length plus your 2-3 inches for your basque, okay, which in this case is 20 inches for me. And then you still have the leftover of your 2.5 yards. Remember, it's all 2.5 yards. I just make sure that 20 inches, so you still have the leftover there as your back. Okay, so this is what I have folded here now on my fabric. You can see it stops here. That's for the front. So now to cut out the neckline, I'm just going to put it on fold like this. Remember I said the length, the 60 inches is what I'm going to be using as my width, which is going to carry the neckline, the shoulder, and the sleeve length. So for the neck width, I'm going to measure out a width of 3 inches for both front and back. Remember, they are folded together. And then for the neck depth of the back, I'm going to mark 1 inch, and then for the front I'm going to mark 9 inches. Okay, I'll still do this with our paper. So here I'm connecting the neck for the back. So for the front, on this depth area, I'm going to come here from the center point. I'm going to mark 1 inch or 1.5 inches, depending on how wide you want it to be. I hope you can see what I'm marking there. Then after marking it from that point, I'm going to connect. There's going to be like a collar there. We have done this severally on the channel, so I'm sure we'll understand it. So I'm going to connect like this, like a V, to that neck depth. I hope you understand what I'm doing. So on the paper, what I just did at this center part, where the fold point is, I mark my neck width and depth. This is for the back, and then for the front I mark my desired depth, and then that point I came in by 1 inch, and then I connected just like this. So to cut it out now, I'm going to cut the back first, of course, because it is smaller. Then I'm going to open it out to cut the front. So here I have cut out the back. So to assist you, you can just give it a notch at that point so that you know where the front and back stops. So here on the outer part as well, I'm going to notch it. Okay, I'm going to notch where my front and back stop. I already gave it a notch. So this is what I said you should notch this part, so that when you open it up to cut the front neckline, you're not going to be confused. So you just notch it at this point. You can also notch at the center point. So now that I have cut out the back neckline, I'm going to open it out so that I can cut my front. So you are going to arrange it back the way it's supposed to be. So now your notches are going to assist you. So just make sure that your notches, we can see my notch that I have here. So I'll arrange everything well. Okay, so now I have arranged it. I hope you can see my lines. So I'll come here now and cut out my neckline for the front as well. So after cutting out the 1 inch here, you can also go in by 1.5 or 2 inches. I'm going to cut to meet the back neckline, just like this. So you can see what we have here. So the next thing now is to work on the waistline. Like I said, this is going to have a basque waistline. So my actual waistline was 17 inches, so I added extra 3 inches to that for the basque. So now this is the center fold. This is the center of the front. Okay, remember it's like this. So now when we open it out, this is the center of my front. So over here I'm going to mark my waist measurement, my actual waist measurement divided by 4, because I'm just going to be pleating on the waist area. So for this I'm working with a waist of 36 inches. Divided by 4 is going to give me 18 inches. Sorry, divided by 4 is going to give me 9 inches. So you can add to that if you want, but I'm going to be working with the 9 inches. So here from this center here, I'm going to mark my 9 inches, which stops around here. Okay, so on that 9 inches, remember this is not my actual waistline, I added to it. I'm just going to come up by the 3 inches extra that I added. Okay, so I'm coming up by 3 inches extra on that 9 inches, and then with my ruler I'm going to connect it to the center front back to form my free basque waistline. Okay, so that is the basque effect that we are creating there. Now if you want your basque effect to show more than this, all you just need to do is to increase the extra length that you are adding. So now after creating this basque effect, what I'm going to do now is to measure this 3 inches all round to the side, so that I'll have my actual waistline. So what I did here, remember this is my front, this is the neckline for the front. So now what you just need to do is to mark your actual waistline. So assuming your actual waistline stops here, so on that point you are going to come up by whatever excess that you had to your actual waist length. So for me I added 3 inches extra, so this is the 3 inches here. So on that 3 inches point, I'm just going to connect it in a V form to the center front. This is the center front, the fold point. I'm going to connect it there so that I can have my basque waistline. So now these 3 inches that I have, I'm just going to mark it upwards and connect like this, so that this part is going to be my actual waistline. I hope you understand that. So now if you grab your scissors now, I'm going to cut off this excess that I added to my actual waist, the 3 inches excess, okay, up to my actual waistline, and then from there you are going to cut to form your basque waistline. So you can see how the shape that you have here is straight, is my actual waist from here, and then from here it just goes like that. So I'll cut this on my fabric as well. So I'm cutting from the center here, and once I get to this 3 inches waist area, I'll continue cutting straight to this side. So after this now, I'll go ahead and sew my collar to the neckline. Like I said, this collar we have done it separately on the channel, so I'm just going to rush through it. So for that, again, before I separate this, I'm going to notch the center back. So for the collar, you're going to measure around your neckline, so from front all the way to the back, and then back to the front. You can cut it in excess, and then you cut out the leftover. So here I have about 28 inches, so I'll just cut out 30 inches. The length is going to be 30 inches, and the width for this is going to be around 2 inches. So on fold I'll have about 4 inches. So I'll go ahead and cut it now and bring it back to show us how to sew it. Okay, so I've gone ahead to cut it out, and then I added hairstay to it because, like I said, this is a chiffon fabric, it's soft. So now I have ironed this, and what I'm going to do is to go ahead and sew it round. But before then, at the corner of the front here, so that I can open up very well, I'm just going to notch it by half an inch diagonally like this. Okay, just half an inch, enough for me to sew. That's my seam allowance that I'm using to notch it. So after notching it, now you can see that it's opening very well, and I can easily place my collar, and then I'm going to sew round by that allowance. So I have sewn it round, as you can see. So the next thing to do now, the excess that you have here, I'm just going to tuck it in. So because you notched it on this side, it's going to be easy for you. So I'll just flip it like this, and then I'm going to lap them on each other. Okay, so now after lapping it on each other, I'll just go and run a stitch here with this half an inch. Because of the notch, you can see how it is just separate from what I have there. So I'll just sew it down here so that I can lock it in, and then I'll have something this neat. So this part here, now you're just going to weave it off. So I've sewn it down. Now I'm going to cut off the excess collar, excess band that I have there, and then you are going to weave that part as well. So if you turn it to the right side now, this is what the neckline is going to look like. You can see how neat it is. So now that the neckline is done, the next thing now is to form our pleats and the cowl. So to form the pleats now, I want us to pay close attention to this because it's quite big. So again, I'm going to use this as an example. This is the front, as you can see. This is the front half length, and this is the back together with the excess. Remember, we started with 2.5 yards. So what you want to do now, make sure that this part doesn't shift, so you can hold that part with a pin. I have held mine, especially because I'm working with a chiffon fabric. Okay, so now this is my length for the front, and I'm maintaining that length for the back as well. So this point, so now the pleating is just going to be on the waist area where we have our basque effect. Remember, we came from here, we came 9 inches upwards before we connected. So I'm going to stop the pleating here, and then I will just sew the red straight. So what you're pleating is you're pleating from the left over. This is the length for the back. So this length for the back here, you're just going to pick it up and then take it to the waist, just like this. I hope you understand that. So what you're going to do, you're going to have excess. By the time we're doing it on fabric, you will see you're going to have excess here. So this excess, when you fold it here, this excess is what you're going to pleat to the waist. But in this case, from where the waist stop, you're just going to sew this part straight. It's not going to be pleated. The pleating is going to start from here all the way to the waist, and then you leave half an inch before you start pleating, because we are still going to sew it. What we are doing is like this. Okay, we'll fold for this side and pleat, we'll fold for this side and pleat, and then we'll sew it together at the midpoint. So you need to leave the half an inch for the sewing. So what I will do now is to pick one end. Okay, I'm picking this first end like this, and then I'll take it to my center part where the bask starts. I have a notch there, so it's going to make it easy for me to note. So here I'm placing it together with the notch, and then I'm leaving like the half an inch that I'm going to use to sew. So you can either start pleating from here, and then you just highball it, or since we already know where we're going to stop the pleat, which is our 9 inches that we measured here, which is the actual waistline, I have my own here because I placed a notch there. So what I'm going to do now is to, let me turn like this. So this is my side. You can see that I held that part with a pin. So what I'm going to do now is to just take this part like this and then pin, because I'm not going to be pleating on this side. This is my sleeve. This part is not going to be pleated, is my sleeve. The pleating is just going to start from my waist of 9 inches to the center fold. So that part now, I am making sure it is straight. You can see what I'm doing there. You can pin it as well. So you can see how I have pinned it. Your hand is going to come out from this half length area, so don't be bothered about that. So after pinning it now, you can see, so from here to here is the 9 inches for my waist, and you can see all of this excess that we have. Okay, after pinning this, so this excess now is what I'm going to be pleating to fit into this basque area of my waist. I hope you understand that. So mine is going to be like a midi dress because I used 2.5 yards. So if you want yours to be longer, you just increase your length, and if you want it to be shorter, you can use like 2 yards or thereabout. So I have sewn it. You can see this is the half length measurement. You can see the opening that we have here. This is our shoulder. So from that point now to where the waist is, you can see I just sew it straight because that's going to be where my sleeve is going to be, and then from there to my waistline, you can see that I just gathered it on that part. Okay, so that is for the first side. So you will do the exact same thing you have done here for the second side as well. So what we're going to do now is to pick the last tip, which is this, and then I have also pinned the half length area so that I don't get confused. So I've pinned it so I know where I'm going to stop sewing. Okay, so you're just going to take the tip to your center front, which is here. You leave 1/2 inch for sewing. So after taking the tip to the center front, I'm going to pin it. The next thing is for me now to just drag to know where the pleating is going to start. So it's going to start from my waistline. So what I'm doing now is pinning from the side, and then I'm going to stop pinning from the waistline. This is the side, this is the opening. Okay, the opening is like your half length. Let me show you on the paper. So this part is going to be open, that's like your half length. So once you pick this tip now, you pin it to the center front, and then you sew here, then you gather from here. We don't have excess here because it's a paper. So I've pinned the tip. So here I'm going to pick where I will start sewing. So I'm going to sew from there to this place. This is the notch, which signifies where my waist is going to start, and then I'm going to pleat. So here I'm just going to pin it down, just to note that for this part I will just sew straight. I'm not going to pleat. So I'm pinning that part down, which is going to be my sleeve area. Okay, I hope you understand this. So now all of this excess that I have here, remember I have pinned it to my center front. This is my center front. I have all of this excess now, and that is what I'm going to be pleating to this waistline, this 9 inches waistline. So I'll go and pleat this as well now. So I have gathered the waistline of the second one as well. So the gathering is just on the waistline, and you can see the V shape there. So now this excess that I left is what I'm going to use to sew it. So you just measure down how much you want to open on your lap. So from here I think I'm just going to measure down around 10 inches, and then 10 to 15 inches, and then I'm going to sew it close. So after sewing it close on that part, for you to be able to walk freely in it, remember this is a short dress, so I'm just going to curve the hem of the front a little bit so that it can have enough leg room. I hope you understand that. So if we sew, excuse me, from the waistline, which is here, okay, sorry, this is the waistline, we're going to sew it down because it's still open, as you can see. So for it to close up, we're going to sew it down a little bit depending on how much you want to sew it down. Then after that, I'm just going to curve a little bit here so that it's going to be easy to work on. So here you can see I'm just curving it like this, just for the front to open up more. So I'll take it to the same machine now, and then I'm going to run a stitch to close up this place. So I'm going to sew it down, and then like I said, I just sew this down by just 10 inches so that I can walk freely, because this is not so long. Okay, so I sew it down by 10 inches. The next thing now is to create the fit that we want for the front. So for that, I have created 2 waist belts that I'm going to use to tie it so that I can have it fitted in the front area. So what you're just going to do, already you know where your waistline starts, that's where your pleat starts. So here I'm going to sew 1 belt like this. Okay, so I'm just going to sew it, place it like this, hand sew, so that I can tie it to the waistline on one side, and then I'm going to do the same thing on the other side as well, so that I can tie this to my body for it to be fitted in front. Then after that, I'm going to create a channel using the allowance. Remember, this is the sleeve, that part that we did not pleat, that's where our sleeve is, that's the straight part. So the seam allowance that I have there that I used to sew, I'm just going to sew the seam allowance down on both sides here, so that I can create a channel where I'm going to pass rope for my ruched effect. So here I'm just going to, depending on how much ruched that you want there, I'm not going to make it all the way. So from where the opening is, I'm just going to measure around 12 inches, and then I'll open up the seam allowance there and sew it down on both sides, which will automatically create channel for me to pass the rope. So the belt is fixed now, you can see. So you can tie this to your back so that it can have fitness at the front area. And I've also created the channel on this part. So you can notice that before creating my channel, I folded this in so that it can come out. So now after this, I'll go ahead and hem the sleeve area all around. I'll do the same thing for the hem as well. From where I stopped sewing here, which is my 10 inches, the remaining allowance that I have, I'll just use it to fold it round so that it can be neat on that part too. So I have created my rope, which is this. So what I'm going to do now is to go ahead and pass the rope through the two channels that I created, so that I'll be able to adjust it anyhow I want. I have done this for the second side. I can see what I have. So this is the ruched effect that you're going to have. And like I said, I didn't make it all the way to the waistline. I stopped it somewhere like 6 to 8 inches before the waist. Remember, this belt signifies where our waistline starts. So yours can be all the way to the waistline depending on what you want. So I'll go ahead and hem it now, and then I'll iron it and take it to the mannequin so that we can see what it looks like. So this is what the dress looks like. You can see the collar is well laid and it goes from front to the back. So this is the basque effect that we create in front. So once yours to be more obvious than this, you just need to increase the measurements that you worked with, and that's the total length that I got with 2.5 yards. So that's the ruched effect on the sleeve area as well. So if you want yours to be longer than this, you just need to increase the fabric that you're working with. Remember, I worked with 2.5 yards of chiffon fabric. So if you want something longer, you just work with 3 to 4 yards of fabric. I hope you enjoyed making this with me. If you enjoyed it, let us know in the comment section. Like, comment and subscribe to our channel, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.